Hey guys, how's it going? Srey here, and I am back today with another How Good Is video. Today is going to be featuring Malthael. Malthael is, of course, from the Diablo franchise. He is a frontline bruiser slash melee assassin that does very sustained damage, and he's unique for a few reasons, but the most notable is that his auto attacks apply and multiple abilities apply a percentage dot that deals basically one auto attack will deal 10% damage over 4 seconds or 2.5% damage every 1 second. And that obviously makes him very good against heroes with high health pools. So he's naturally going to be good against a heavy tank comp or heavy frontline melee comp or anything like that. He's going to be quite good. He's also good if the enemy team lacks damage to focus him down because his sustained damage, especially AoE damage, is very, very powerful. Malthael is good on a number of maps. The other notable thing about his passive is that it does affect everything except structures, including bosses, including immortals. So he's going to be good on Battlefield Eternity to help rush down the immortal, and pretty much any other map where there's a lot of high health uh, monsters or minions. So if you're on Warhead Junction, he can do bosses really quickly. If you're on Brax's Holdout, he can clear the Zerg wave fairly quickly. And in situations like that, he's just going to be quite good. So the types of comps you should run Malthael in is, well, honestly, I just don't know for sure exactly how he's going to fit into your team comp, but he'll probably just fit into the melee assassin role. He's really good at solo laning, uh, and he's also quite good in situations where you need a lot of, like another frontline bruiser for your team, but you don't want to just run another tank because he's going to do quite a lot of damage. From my experience, he's topped the numbers in almost every game that I've played him in. I've topped the numbers, and then the enemy team has played it. Usually the Malthael is pretty high up. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a nerf for him in the future. I don't think he's OP, but he's certainly strong. When I first started playing him, I didn't actually think he was very good. I thought he was a horrible hero. That was just because I was playing him completely wrong with the wrong talent builds. So I'm going to go over the correct talent builds and how you should be building him, because in the right hands, he's extremely strong. In terms of what heroes you want to have on your team, since he heals for a flat amount, yes, he does heal. Anything that provides him base armor, or and he also has a lot of base armor in his kit as well, or kind of shields are going to be good with him. So Uther is really good with him. D shield's obviously really strong. Tyrell, Sank, or anything that provides him movement speed. Zarya giving him shields is really good, and pretty much anything that can dive really hard as well, because Malthael is at his best when he's in the absolute middle of the enemy team. So let's go over his basic abilities. I did mention his passive, but let's read it more in depth. Basic attacks afflict non-structured targets with Reaper's Mark for 4 seconds. Marked enemies are revealed and take damage equal to 2.5% of their max health every 1 second. So if I walk up to this target dummy, it's going to do 2.5% per second. And that's not, the target dummy has a lot more health than that, but I think it's applied for like a 3 or 4,000 health hero for the percent. And you can see that when you attack something, it just applies that dot. Let's actually start with Malthael's E for his other 3 abilities. Death Shroud costs 50 mana and is an 8-second cooldown. After 0.25 seconds, you unleash a wave of dark mist that applies Reaper's Mark to enemies it hits. So that just looks like this. Notice a very slow-moving, pretty thin projectile, and it's not. If you're against a ranged hero, it is very difficult to hit this on them. In fact, they should always dodge you. You should never be able to hit a ranged hero with this ability. Also note that your other 2 abilities are grayed out, so they're not activatable except for Death Shroud. And let's actually apply Death Shroud on the wave. So the way you want to do it for wave clear is you want to apply Death Shroud on the wave. You can see that your other abilities become active once you apply your mark to enemies. You can see it doesn't actually do that much damage, it's 10% of their max health. So if the heroes that have low health pools or enemies that have low health pools, his passive won't be quite as good or nearly as good for some of his high health pool targets. His W is Wraith Strike. It costs 30 mana and is a 5-second cooldown. You instantly teleport through an enemy afflicted by Reaper's Mark, dealing 129 damage and reapplying Reaper's Mark. So if I attack this counts as a hero, I can teleport behind them and you do some damage and reapply it. This is your only mobility tool in pretty much your entire kit. You can increase your movement speed and some other thing like that in talents, but this is his only actual any kind of gap close or anything like this is Wraith Strike. So the way you want to use it is you can apply your passive from a distance, and then you can teleport to a target for mobility. That is your only gap closer. There's no other way to get within range of heroes aside from just walking up to them. His Q is his bread and butter, Soul Rip, 20 mana, 2-second cooldown. You extract the souls of nearby enemies afflicted by Reaper's Mark, dealing damage and healing yourself per target hit. Heroic targets heal Malthael for an additional 3% of the hero's maximum health. So again, if the higher max health the hero has, the more Soul Rip will heal you. So it's going to be, again, you're going to be better against heroes that have high max health. So this is again his bread and butter. So if we toggle the minion wave here, you'll see that to do wave clear, or to wave clear out the minion wave, you basically just cast your E on all of them when they're in the line, and then you spam your Q, and you'll get 2 Qs off per E that you apply. Since it lasts for 4 seconds, you're able to get 2 off. And he has pretty good wave clearing. He has really good sustain in lane. He's actually quite good at that. And you can see that my mana costs are pretty much non-existent as well, so he doesn't really have any mana issues. My main issue with Malthael is I think that I wouldn't say design choice, but I think the effects of his Q, Soul Rip, is really, really underwhelming. So you can see that I'm pressing Q here, and it just like, it barely makes any noise, and it just like saps nearby enemies that you hit. And I wish that was a lot more, had better sound design, better effects. I think that would go a long way to just making Malthael feel a little bit cooler. That's just a side thing though. Okay, so those are his basic abilities. So the different ways you can combo, you generally want to apply your basic attacks first, and then you can combo the rest of your abilities. So keep in mind that your E literally does nothing except apply Reaper's Mark at range. So if you're attacking a hero, I've seen this a lot, probably because people are new to him. They'll be attacking a hero, and then they'll cast Death Shroud right on the target they're attacking. Like, that doesn't do anything. You just used the cooldown for no reason. So you can either just attack a hero, and then you can like blink back and forth between them. A lot of times, if you're trying to poke enemies that are trading with you, you'll just like cast your E out, and then you'll blink back and just like get a couple of attacks in and just get out. You want to try and apply your passive on everything. So because his basic attacks are actually, the attacks per second are low, and the attack damage is he does low attack damage is what I'm saying with basic attacks. It's often better just to apply your passive to as many things as possible instead of auto-attacking the same target, unless you're trying to secure a kill or something. You'll also heal more with Soul Rip if you apply your passive to as many targets as possible. So again, last time I'm going to show minions walk up, and then let's pretend these are heroes or something. You're trying to trade early game. You can throw your E, say you hit some heroes, and then just before your passive backs out, you reset again, and then you can kind of, if you wait 4 seconds, this is an 8-second cooldown. So if I reapply it now, you can basically have permanent Reaper's Mark up on someone, and that minion would be a hero and it'd be alive. And you can just harass enemies really well with that by having full uptime, since your W refreshes and your E refreshes. Okay, let's actually go over his talents. So talents at level 1 are Death's Reach, increased Wraith Strike range by 35%. Untitled Horse, gain additional 20% movement speed while mounted, and Fear the Reaper, 25-second cooldown. You can activate it to increase the movement speed of your hero by 25% and pass through other units for 4 seconds. So Untitled Horse was one of my favorite talents in World of Warcraft when I played Death Knight, but unfortunately it's not too viable here. Usually you don't need the extra speed to move around the map. It's just nice to have, but doesn't really do anything. Death's Reach increases the range of Wraith Strike by 35%. And again, that's nice. So if we take the talent here, you can see that the range is quite far. It's actually, I think, the same range as Death Shroud. But again, the issue is you're going to want to be in the middle of a team fight, casting Soul Rip on all enemies. So the additional range doesn't really help you much, because a lot of the time you're not going to be at max range. Like, the way that fights are going to play out, you'll see at level 10, you go into the middle of the fight, and there shouldn't really be enemies that are this far away from you. Usually they're going to be within range of Wraith Strike anyway. And additionally, if you actually want to chase them, you're better off just going the movement speed anyway. So movement speed is just really multi-purpose. It's going to give you some kind of escape tool, and it's going to help you a lot in team fights. It's also a very low cooldown, so you can just spam it whenever you need it. The movement speed just looks like this, and it's again quite useful, especially to prevent yourself from getting body blocked as well. Level 4, we have Die Alone. Soul Rip deals 75% more damage if it hits only one hero and no other enemies. Throwing Shade after you hit 20 heroes with Death Shroud permanently increase Death Shroud's range by 33% and reduce its cooldown by 2 seconds. And Black Harvest. Apply Reaper's Mark to heroes for a total of 150 seconds. Permanently increase Reaper's Mark duration by 2 seconds. So, okay, so Malthael is a hero that is, again, at his best in the middle of a team fight when you're applying Reaper's Mark to the entire enemy team. You're just soul ripping the entire team. That's when he's at his best. And this is just really counterintuitive to how you'd want to play him. You don't want to be on a single hero, and that's actually going to be very rare. Like in a team, the radius on his Q is quite large, so you're not going to be flinging in from behind and assassinating a squishy hero with Dialon. That's just not going to happen. You might get some picks early game on rotation, but late game this does nothing. And this is actually a really important talent tier for Malthael because Black Harvest is really, really strong. Throwing Shade, although the name is cool, it's just, again, unrealistic. You're going to be at a pretty big deficit. Hitting 20 heroes with Death Shroud, I think, is a lot harder than getting 150 seconds of Black Harvest. And having an additional 2 seconds of Reaper's Mark is very, very important. If you have Reaper's Mark applied to the enemy team, you win the fight. The whole point of a lot of the talents, and you'll see at level 10, just applying Reaper's Mark to the enemy team just makes him so powerful. So just the more tools you have to apply Reaper's Mark makes it better. And 2 additional seconds is a 50% increase on the duration of Reaper's Mark. That is so good. That not only does it do a lot more damage, but you'll see that with like level 16 talent, it has a lot of synergy and you're gonna be able to do significantly more damage than without. This is gonna be way more impactful than either of these other talents will be, especially once you hit late game. Malthael is one of those heroes that really turns on once he hits level 10, and then 13, 16 are really, really big power spikes, and then 20 is also pretty decent. But he's really good mid game. Like once you hit level 13, I'd say is his biggest power spike. 10, 13, 16. So early game, he's just really underwhelming. But once you hit once you get past the early game, he's going to be very, very powerful. Cold Hand is Soul Rip slows enemies by 20% for 2.5 seconds. Mortality when damaging a hero. Right Strike deals bonus damage equal to 4% of the hero's maximum health. And Touch of Death, 30-second cooldown. It's activatable, and you activate it to reduce the healing received by heroes afflicted by Reaper's Mark by 50% for 4 seconds. Okay, so let's start with Mortality first. 4% of the hero's maximum health just isn't a lot. That's slightly less than 2 seconds worth of your Reaper's Mark, and it's just like not a lot of damage. 4% of the hero's max health is not a lot. I would consider it if it was like maybe 7%, 8%. 8% I would definitely get it, I think, or consider it. But I think 4% is just way too low. It's not going to be doing enough for you. I don't think it's a good enough talent to be viable at this tier because the other two talents are really, really good. Cold Hand is really strong. It lets you stay alongside all enemies, especially if you have Fear the Reaper. So you have 25% moves for yourself, and you slow enemies by 20%. So you'll be able to stick very, very effectively. The enemies will not be able to run away from you. And this is just good like every point in the game. It's just a very, very solid talent. And it's 2.5 seconds. That's a pretty long slow for a talent. Touch of Death, though, I think is probably just the best talent here. It's going to take a little bit of a learning curve to use it at the right time, and I wouldn't say it's always the best, but if they have any kind of like normal dedicated healer, especially if it's like a Rhaegar or a medic or anything with a lot of healing output, Touch of Death is going to be extremely strong. Think of it as dealing damage, and a lot of time it'll say how much healing you prevented. A lot of time I prevented like over 1,000 healing pretty easily. That's like really average something to do in a fight, especially if you verse like an Oriole and you apply your Reaper's Mark to the entire enemy team, then you pop up Touch of Death and they'll miss like 1 or 2 Ws depending on what their cooldown is. And it's going to significantly reduce the amount of healing the enemy team receives. especially if you're trying to burst them down, because it kind of gives you pseudo burst by preventing their healing, and it's also just really good with your team as well. So if the enemy team has pretty good healing, I'll go Touch of Death. Otherwise, I go Cold Hand. Usually, I've been going Touch of Death though. And you can see that it just becomes activatable in your bar, and then once Reaper's Mark affects something, you can just activate this, and it shows healing has been put down there. It's also very difficult for the enemy team to actually see when it's been activated. It's not like a big there's no animation for it. There's just that little icon. At level 10, we have his 2 heroics. So we have Tormented Souls, 100 mana, 80-second cooldown. You gain 20 armor and unleash a torrent of souls around you. Continue applying Reaper's Mark to nearby enemies for 4 seconds. And Last Rites, 100 mana and 75-second cooldown. Apply Death Sentence to an enemy hero that, after 2 seconds, deals damage equal to 50% of their missing health. Enemies killed while under the effect of Last Rites permanently reduces its cooldown by 5 seconds to a minimum of 15 seconds. So it actually has a repeatable quest ingrained in the talent. And I think that's really, really cool, and I love the direction. Unfortunately, this talent is pretty garbo. It's pretty trash. The most damage it'll ever actually do is 33% of max health, and that's if you like frame perfect it and you cast it perfectly when they have exactly 33% health. Usually that won't happen, so it's going to do less than that, and it's just not that strong at all. Also, in a realistic game, especially if you're playing competitive, totally unrealistic to get that many takedowns to make it worthwhile. I think you have to get 12 or something. I can't remember to actually finish this quest completely without the level 20 talent, which makes it quicker to upgrade. And it's just totally unrealistic to get that many kills with it, and that you'd actually need it to use it every single time. So in a real game, you'll get like, I don't know, 4 to 5 maybe, um, and you'll reduce the cooldown somewhat, but it's still just not worth taking at all. And the other reason I started taking this talent, and that's why he felt so underwhelming, but Tormented Souls is absolutely the way you want to go. And it doesn't sound very good. Like, it literally just gives you 20 armor for 4 seconds, which is worse than a lot of talents. Like, Ragnaros' level 4 gives you, I believe, 25 armor for 3 seconds, and it also gives you HP regen, so it seems really, really bad compared to that. However, it also applies a Reaper Mark to enemies for 4 seconds, but different heroes, different strengths. So 20 armor on this hero and applying Reaper's Mark is really good. So the ability looks like this. And basically enemies within this zone just have Reaper's Mark applied to them. And just the fact that you apply a Reaper's Mark to the enemy team makes him so powerful. He's so good. And you have 20 base armor, and he has more base armor in his kit at level 13. And if you get like an Uther heal as well, you're already reducing damage by 45%. All damage by 45%. Plus you're healing a huge amount of health via Soul Rip. So let's actually toggle minions on here, select Vikings, and let me take some damage. Just want to show you how much this actually like heals for in a team fight. So let's have the Vikings come out. They should be out any second. There we go. So you can see that I hit Q twice there, but this is one Q here. And that's one Q, and you have the armor going. You're going to be able to heal for like 25% at least of your max health. That was only hitting like 3 heroes. In a real fight, you'd be hitting a lot more, and probably a bunch of other stuff as well, maybe minions as well. So I toggle cooldowns off here, and I go in. You'll see that this is one Q. That heals, and then I'm hitting Q again. I'm not even attacking stuff. I'm just spamming Q here. And you heal a huge amount just from that. Hopefully I don't die to Vikings. Okay. So it's just going to be a lot better than you would get from Last Rite. So basically, Tormented Soul, you just pop it and you go right in, and you should be almost invulnerable for the duration of this if you combine the healing plus level 13 talents, and you have any kind of healing from your support. Going to be very, very strong. At level 13, we have Soul Siphon, increased Soul Rips bonus healing from heroes to 4% of the hero's maximum health. So from 3% to 4%, really, really underwhelming. Ethereal Existence, gain 15 physical armor per enemy hero afflicted by Reaper's Mark up to a maximum of 45. So that's 3 heroes. That is extremely powerful and is a talent that makes him so strong at 13, especially if you're against an auto attack based team, because you have 60 base armor plus 45 physical armor. So that's 65 physical armor, and that is just going to completely dumpster a lot of teams. And you have all the sustained healing. And then if you have like an Uther, you're going to have already 75 max. You're going to basically have hardened shield for like 4 seconds when you go in against physical armor. And very, very, very powerful talent. This is a huge power spike once you get this. It's very, very difficult for ranged heroes to kill you once you have that. Inevitable Death is a 30-second cooldown. You activate it, become unstoppable for 2 seconds, but remove all active Reaper's marks. And Shroud of Wisdom cooldown is 30 seconds, and after 2 seconds, you gain 50 spell armor for 4 seconds. So you can see that you have something that if they have no CC, you can go Soul Rip. But if they have a really heavy auto attacks, you can go Ethereal Existence. If they have a lot of CC, you can go to Inevitable End. And if they have a lot of spell damage, you can go Shroud of Wisdom. So I think this talent, Soul Siphon, is bad. I think Shroud of Wisdom is good if they really don't have any backline auto attack based heroes at all, or any kind of auto attack heroes on the team. Then Shroud could be good. Inevitable End, I'd only go that if they have super heavy CC, then I think it's pretty good. If you activate this while you're ulting Tormented Souls, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it removes all Reaper's Marks because you can immediately reapply it afterwards. So in general, you want to go Ethereal Existence. It's really strong.
Choose a talent.
At 16, we have Soul Collector, reduce Soul Rip's cooldown by 0.5 seconds, increases range by 50%. Massacre, Rate Strike now damages and applies Reaper's Mark to enemies around its target. And Memento Mori, I think I pronounced that correctly. Reaper's Mark deals 100% increased damage after afflicting an enemy for more than 4 seconds. So this talent is not nearly as good as it looks. 50% range on your Q is nice, but it's not going to be nearly as nice as you think because you have to be in range to actually apply your Reaper's Mark in the first place. So spamming this a little bit. So you get it 0.5 cooldown off, so from 2 to 1.5. That's nice, but that's pretty much the best part about this talent. Again, the range, you have to be within range to actually apply it in the first place. So the extra range isn't going to be good if you're not continually applying your passive anyway. Massacre Wraith Strike is if I take this talent just to show you how big the radius is, you can see that it's pretty noticeable. However, I think that Memento Mori is just so good. So it's going to increase your damage by 100%. So instead of 2.5 per second, it's going to be doing 5% per second. And remember that at level 4, we have permanently increased Reaper's Mark duration by 2 seconds. So after 4 seconds, so when you apply your passive, it's going to apply 4 seconds of the normal and then 2 seconds of the double damage at the end. So you basically, one auto attack now applies, will take out 20% of the target's max health instead of 10% of the max health. And then it's going to be even better if you can keep applying the damage as well. So if you're in a team fight, think about using Tormented Souls, right? It lasts for 4 seconds, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when it ends, then it still lasts 4 seconds longer. So that's going to be, or 6 seconds longer. So that's going to be 10 seconds of having your Reaper Mark applied to a single target. 4 seconds of that will be 2.5%, and then 6 seconds will be 5%. So you can see that you're doing a huge amount of damage to the enemy team. And just by going in the middle of the team and popping Tormented Souls, you're going to be doing like, in a couple Soul Rips, you're going to be doing about like 50% of their max health. A bit more, a bit less, depending on how much health they actually have, because I'm including some of the flat damage that Soul Rip does. But just by spamming your abilities in a team fight, you're going to be doing a huge amount of damage to all heroes that you affect, and you'll be pretty much unkillable. Like you don't even need a D shield when you go in. You don't need a D shield until you get low, and then you can heal fully back up by using the heal from Soul Rip. So basically, just go in the middle of the team fight, pop Tormented Souls, and then bang your forehead on Q to spam Soul Rip. And that's pretty much how you play Malthael in team fights. You can also blink around with Wraith Strike and Death Shroud and attack some targets, but you're really not doing that much. You also want to pop Touch of Death to reduce healing, and then increase your movement speed with Fear of the Reaper. That's pretty much it. You just spam all of your abilities at the same time when you go in, and then you're playing, hey, I'm playing Malthael, I'm a pro player. And then at level 20, we have a few different talents. We have Reaper of Souls. While Tormented Souls is active, hero takedowns extend its duration by 4 seconds. Angel of Death last right heals for 100% of the damage dealt, and its current and future cooldown reduction bonuses are doubled, so it takes half the amount of kills to actually stack it fully. Final Curtain, Death Shroud leaves a trail in its wake for 4 seconds, reapplying a Reaper's Mark to enemies in its area, and no one can stop death. So no one can stop death. It's a 180-second cooldown. You can activate it while dead to immediately respawn at the altar, but increase Malthael's next respawn timer by 25%. So let's start with the Talon I think are bad. If you actually do go last rights, I think Angel of Death is pretty decent, but wouldn't recommend that talent at all. The level 10 talent, so I would recommend this one. Reaper of Souls, you're usually not killing someone within the duration the Tormented Souls will be active, because usually when you go in, the enemy team should roughly be full health, and you do damage over time, so you're not really going to burst anyone down within the 4 seconds that Tormented Souls is active, so you won't get the increased duration for this talent. It would be a lot better if takedowns activated Tormented Souls instead of refresh or extend the duration. So this talent not really the best, and again, it really only applies stacks. The 20 armor is a nice bonus, but Tormented Souls is really only applying your mark. So Final Curtain is, I think, the best talent here. If you compare it to Reaper of Souls, they both apply your passive. So this is what it looks like, and it just applies your passive to anyone that walks through here, or stands in there. It'll keep applying it. So you can have, if someone were to stand in here for the full 4 seconds, it would last. It would cause your passive to stack on someone for 10 seconds because of the level 4 talent you have. And No One Can Stop Death is absolutely game breaking. It is similar to a talent there was in the game before called Resurgence, which every 180 seconds, it was a level 20 talent. You could just revive in your base after 5 seconds, and but you couldn't activate when you wanted to use it. So this is slightly better, I think. But you can but it increases the spawn of your next time by 25%. So I think this is really, really good, especially in some situations. It's just going to save games. You'll see in competitive play, I'm sure you'll see highlight clips of this just absolutely changing the outcome of a game. But I think that most of the time you'll probably get more benefit from Final Curtain, but it's hard to say. I think it's just situational. That's pretty much everything for Malthael. Overall, you just dive into the middle of any team, activate all your abilities, spam Q, Wraith Strike around, and you should be doing tons of damage. I've literally topped the damage in I think every single game I've played, and you just want to apply your passive as often as possible. Remember that you can do merc camps very, very effectively, especially once you get level 16, or even just in the early game, you can do them very effectively. He can actually solo them quite quickly and stay at near full health for most of the camps. Even if you do the night camp on Warhead Junction, I was staying above like 70% health when I actually finished the camp, so that was pretty good. That's it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.